Hey there friends, it's Laurie. Today I'm sharing 3 new fall DIYs. I had fun using sunflowers and apples, and they're all easy and inexpensive to make. To keep the cost down, I did use Dollar Tree supplies, but I also recycled a bunch of things that I had on hand. As always, I hope you have fun crafting with me, so let's get busy. Getting started, I'm using a 5.5 by 11-inch piece of wood, and this came from the Dollar Tree. The front side has a smooth finish, and the back side is rough cut. I want my sign to be a bit rustic, so I'm working on the back side. I'm painting mine with some golden brown acrylic paint, but you can always change up the color. I'm adding on the paint, but I'm not painting the board completely. By doing this, I'm allowing some of the rough cut lines to show through. When I was done, I finished up, giving the outside edges a coat. Now with the paint dry, I'm using a piece of heavy grit sandpaper. I'm removing the paint that's sitting on the rough edges of the board by sanding side to side. I'm adding on a wooden Hello Autumn sign from this Dollar Tree Harvest Pack. I'm adding a sunflower to my sign, so I painted mine with some mustard yellow acrylic paint. To attach it, I added E6000 onto the back. I then centered it on the bottom of my sign. I pressed it down and then let it set up. I'm using a recycled sunflower. This was given to me a while back from a friend. Because it was broken, she had no use for it, but I knew eventually I would. The inside of the sunflower, it had a few imperfections, so I found some acrylic paint that pretty much matched it, and then I just dabbed it around to clean it up. While the sunflower is drying, I'm finding the placement of its stem on my sign. I'm leaving a little room at the top, and then I'm cutting it to size. I have it cut, and looking at it, it definitely needs some help. So I gave it a coat of shamrock green acrylic paint. It now looks a million times better, so I added some E6000 onto the back and attached it to the sign. With my sunflower dry, I'm adding on some E6000 just above the top of the stem and attaching the flower. I'm adding 2 leaves onto the stem, and I'm just using 2 that I had left over from a past project. Once again, I added some E6000 onto the back of each and attached them in place. For my sign's hanger, I'm using a 14-inch piece of heavy jute. I painted it with the same golden brown acrylic paint to match the sign. I turned it over, added E6000 to both sides, and attached both ends of the hanger. My Hello Autumn sign is easy and inexpensive to make, and now it's ready to hang. If you're new to my channel, please consider clicking on that little red subscribe button below and leaving me a thumbs up. To all my returning friends, I think you are the absolute best, and I can't wait to chat with everyone down below in the comments. I'm starting this DIY by recycling a wooden frame that measures 8 by 10 inches. The glass was already removed and it measures about a ½ inch thick. This will help hold the crate in place. I'm using a Dollar Tree wooden crate. It measures 5½ inches in length and 2½ inches in height. This will fit perfectly inside my frame. I want it to match the colors of my frame, so I watered down some white acrylic paint. I then gave the crate a couple of coats to give it a bit of a whitewash. I painted the top edge and a bit on the inside, but most of that will be covered. To make the support for the back of the crate, this will allow me to attach it to the frame. I'm using some of the tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. I painted 6 of them with the same white acrylic paint. I'm placing 2 to the side and attaching the other 4 together using E6000. I let them set up for a couple of hours, and now using the same E6000, I'm attaching them to the back of my crate. I ran a line along the bottom and attached the 4 blocks. I then attached the next 2 by adding E6000 in the center of the crate. I gave the glue a chance to set up, and now I'm turning the crate over. I want to accent the front, and I'm using some golden brown acrylic paint. This is a very similar color to the brown on my frame. I poured a small amount onto a piece of waxed paper. I'm adding some paint onto the flat end of a paintbrush and then dabbing most of it off on the waxed paper. I'm then dabbing it lightly around the outside edges of the crate. I kept adding on light coats until I had the perfect color. I'm attaching the finished crate onto the frame by first placing some E6000 onto the top of the blocks. I also added some E6000 onto the inside bottom edge of the frame. I then placed it over the crate and pressed the 2 together. When I was done, I then placed 2 of the tumbling tower blocks, 1 on each side under the frame to help the crate set up evenly. I'm adding on the Farm Fresh sign from this Dollar Tree wooden word pack. You can always use your Cricut or even some stickers. I'm adding apples into the crate, so I painted mine with a spice red acrylic paint. I added E6000 onto the back and attached it to the front of the crate. For the hanger, I'm using some of the Dollar Tree nautical rope. I measured it against my frame, deciding on how long I wanted it to be, and it ended up being about 18 inches. To attach the hanger, I turned my frame over and added E6000 onto the back. I added on a generous amount, and this will securely attach the hanger. Before I place in my apples, I need to fill up some of the space in the crate. I'm using a piece of Sahara foam. You can find it at Dollar Tree, Walmart, Michael's. I'm recycling a piece that I already had on hand. I've already measured and cut mine. I'm attaching it into the crate using some hot glue. I'm using 7 small to medium-sized apples, and I already had these on hand. If you aren't able to find them at your local store, there are a ton available online. I'm randomly adding them into the crate using some hot glue. I didn't have any set plan. I just started adding them in, and depending on the size of your apples, you can always add in more or less. To fill in those spaces between the apples, I'm using some raffia, and I had this left over from a past project. I'll link the Scarecrow DIY below in case you'd like to check it out. I'm cutting a few of the pieces into about 3-inch lengths. Now that I have them cut, I'm adding hot glue in between the apples and tucking in pieces of the raffia. Instead of the raffia, you can always change it up and add in some small leaves or even flowers. I let the hot glue set up for a few minutes, and now I'm using my scissors to clean up the raffia. To finish up this DIY, I'm taking a handful of raffia and making a simple bow. To attach it, I added some hot glue to the corner of my frame. I gave it a little trim with my scissors, and with that, this cute Apple Farm Fresh sign is ready to hang. I'm starting this easy DIY with an approximate 4 by 5-inch wooden block that I found in my kindling bin. My inspiration is all the pretty tree stump planters that I've seen over the summer, so I thought I'd bring a bit of that into the indoors. For the center, I'm using a random assortment of fall flowers that I had on hand. I'm adding in different colors and sizes, 3 sunflowers and some leaves. There's already a natural hole in the center in the top, and I first placed down my stem with the leaves. I followed up with the 3 sunflowers. Normally, I would add in hot glue, but the hole is holding them all tightly in place. I then added in the stems of the 4 orange flowers. I'm hot gluing the 3 green leaves that came with my sunflowers around the stems. But another option is to hot glue on some brightly colored fall leaves. The last addition to my arrangement is adding on 2 sprigs of blueberries. I tucked both of them tightly in between the flower stems. When I was done, I then spread them out and gave them a little twist. I'm finishing up using some Dollar Tree sunflower ribbon. I'm adding it onto the front and I'm making a simple bow. I added a dot of E6000 onto the block and then attached the bow at an angle. This was so very easy to make and I love the rustic fall vibe. Here we are at the end of the video, and can you believe it? We're already heading into the fall season. If you happen to be new to my channel, please consider clicking on that little red subscribe button below. I hope you had fun crafting with me, and I hope you possibly make one of these DIYs for your home. If you're interested in looking at some of my other fall home decor ideas, I'll leave them linked at the end of this video, as well as in my description. I hope you all have a safe and an amazing day, and I will see you all very soon. Bye, everybody!